Now, real quick, that's one that I remember growing up on.
Okay.
There were some elements I really enjoyed.
Mine too.
The fight between Clark Kent and
Yes.
Superman. I don't know about the comic.
So
I don't know
Superman
much about
3,
it.
1983, and who was the director? Real quick.
Richard Lester.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, even the kryptonite swerve, right? Where he just kind of looked at it,
and he put tobacco. Was it tobacco?
Yeah,
and he
tar.
cut back,
It was tar.
Tar.
which I thought was pretty cool. Like I said, I don't know anything about the comics and shit like that, but I thought that was cool and how he became dark. Now I know Spawn
Yes.
kind of despises 3. Am I wrong?
Oh, I despise it with everything in my soul. But okay, so
Your soul is empty, sir.
It is, and that's okay because all right, so it's 2 movies in one. It feels like. All right, it's like some Richard Pryor spin-off movie and then like Superman. So anything with Christopher Reeves and Superman is excellent. But you got Richard Pryor, okay? And the first part of the movie is so silly and goofy. It's like a Nickelodeon version of Final Destination, where is this thing gonna fall on somebody? Is the paint gonna fall on this person's head? And all this dumb shit that you're wasting my time on. And then Richard Pryor is at the unemployment line. And then there's a scene that just I watched it the other day and it gave me the sour belches so bad. Is where he's on skis on a building and this motherfucker skis off the top of the building and goes all the way off the building, falls down, lands flat on his feet, doesn't hurt his knee, doesn't even have a fucking sprained ankle, not even his toenails are cracked. Everything is fine. He just falls off a building on skis.
He hit a level and he's lit off. That's
see
totally
what I mean?
logical.
You see what I have to deal with?
Totally logical.
You see what I have to deal with? Yeah, so like, I mean, he doesn't even crack a toenail when he lands. And then it's just this silliness on top of silliness. He shows up and he's in a general's outfit and is like, oh, here you go, here's kryptonite. And like Superman accepts it, like, oh gee, thanks everybody. Like knowing that's fucking kryptonite. You know what I mean? Like,
well, no one knew it was kryptonite. That could have just
he
been
knew it was kryptonite. What do you think?
He looked
knows
at it
was
like he
kryptonite.
accepted it.
What is he?
He didn't. What it was because he had saved the chemical plant. Pryor giving him something that's like something from the chemicals, like a type of element, but it wasn't kryptonite. Because if it was pure kryptonite, it would have hurt him right there. Because remember,
That's right.
remember after he gave it to
it
him,
made him slowly turn.
He called Robert Vaughn's character Ross Webster and said it didn't do anything to him.
Yeah.
And that's because of the
15% tar.
Basically, and I don't mean to cut you off. Just basically, it should have just been red kryptonite because that's really what that did affected him.
You got one of the top 2 greatest comedians of all time trying to be funny. And Richard Pryor is one of the funniest people ever. I mean, Live on Sunset. I mean, the Mac, Bustin' Loose, like classic after classic. And he was just abysmal and not funny at all. Now, my favorite fight scene in all of Superman, including all the new stuff, is Clark Kent versus Dark Superman. And it's just, I don't know, it's just the emotion behind it. And it's just the way it's filmed. And then when he finally puts the choke out on Dark Superman, Clark Kent stands up for himself. The goodness overpowers the dark. And when he chokes him out and he disappears and then he opens that shirt and the music hits, bro, I got chills just talking about it right now. So, I mean, to me, that part, anything with Christopher Reeves as Superman excels. And it's always the shit around him in all 4 of the movies. They're all 4, not perfect. And again, I'm not a Superman guy, but Christopher Reeves as Clark Kent and Christopher Reeves as Superman is just head and shoulders above a lot of these superhero castings, and I think it's excellent. Like same thing with Wesley Snipes' Blade. It's just Taylor. He was born and put on this earth to play that role. I just wish he had better stuff around him. And that's 3. I was hoping, that could have been Brainiac versus, I mean,
it was supposed to be,
and not Brainiac.
No,
it was supposed to be Brainiac, the computer aspect, but I was thinking also Bizarro. Yeah, there's so much they could have done. I don't know why. To this day, I still don't know why they never brought in other comic book villains.
The producers deemed it would have been too expensive to do Bizarro or Brainiac, even though they kind of did it anyway. Like with
in terms of paying DC or just character design.
Just in terms of just making the movie. Period. It was deemed too expensive. Oh. So that's why we got Robot Lady.
Well, then cut Richard Pryor's.
No,
I'm sure Richard Pryor was expensive.
Gus was worth the $5 million they paid him.
No, he wasn't. I didn't even crack a smile. I didn't snicker at
sir,
7 years old.
How dare you?
He didn't make what funny thing did he say?
Oh, the general thing was hilarious.
No, it was
Him
not.
rolling up in a Ferrari with bumping the Pointer Sisters was great.
And I don't even think it was the Pointer Sisters.
Him in the unemployment line collecting his unemployment.
No. That was 2 different movies in one, and it was not a bad combo.
Not from someone who's less
Listen. It's the equivalent of putting Busta Rhymes in a Halloween movie. That's what Richard Pryor.
It would be
is
fucking
in Superman
perfect.
3.
He started over here.
It would be perfect.
It's the equivalent
Of a great movie.
Busta Rhymes doing a
And
spin
I
kick
believe
on Michael Myers.
I believe this classic does exist. I think the name of this classic movie that you're referring to is called Halloween Resurrection.
Halloween
If you haven't looked it
Insurrection.
up, it's an amazing movie. It's classic.
See what I have to deal with, Corey?
Yeah, hold on, real quick.
You wonder why I'm gray at?
This is my
I'm
resurrection.
49 years old and I'm gray like I'm 59.
Woo!
Shirt. My resurrection shirt.
Viva la Resurrection!
Yes.
No.
Yes,
See,
shout
you
out,
see why
shout
I'm?
out.
See, you have no gray hairs on your head.
He shaves his head. We don't know that.
Yeah, look, there's no gray on there.
I have no hair.
You know what I'm saying?
What do you got for 3?
So, my take on 3 is this. I think it's, and I hear Eve's point on that, and all he said is legit points. But I also feel like you have to kind of look at it. This is a kid's film as well, too, though. I've always liked it
I was
as a
7
kid.
and I didn't like it.
You are a bitter child, sir.
I just like good movies.
Apparently not. But that being said, it's one of those movies you're either going to love or you're going to hate. And I still think this movie was made on a pile of cocaine, too, for all these ideas they threw in there. But
That doesn't make it better.
I didn't make it bad. I'm just saying. I mean, you talked about the fight scene between Clark Kent and Superman.
Yes.
That's actually one of the highlights. The second highlight would have been the end scene when he's going against the master computer and the
That's
robot
cool.
later.
That's cool.
But there was, I heard, you know, it's funny. My son got into it. He doesn't sit around for a whole lot of movies, and it was just, I loved him going back to Smallville. I liked introducing a new interest with Lana Lane.
Yes.
It kind of brought in some other characters from his lore. You know what I mean?
Who?
Lana Lane being one of them.
That's it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'll give you that. But even then, though, with the solo edition of Lana Lane, it still took it in another direction. I liked what Richard Lester did. Whether you hate or liked what he does in terms of his humor, he knows how to shoot a good movie. The cinematography was great. I liked how the production guys from the first movies came back. I think this is the one with the best special effects of the original Christopher Reeve's era. Storytelling wise, I was great with it. I liked how Gus was the protagonist and how he was just a guy on his luck, down on his luck, who happened to be really good at computers, allowed himself to be corrupted. And again, a new story for Superman to be involved in. Again, I love the scene where he stopped the chemicals, where he blew like a layer of ice on the lake, picked up that layer.
That was dope.
That was dope. And he made it into like
Again,
rain.
anything with Christopher Reeves and Superman and Clark Kent works, but the Richard Pryor part
is wonderful.
No, it's not. It's Busta Rhymes in Halloween,
anything
bro.
that Pryor does is gold in my opinion.
All right.
There's an awkward moment of silence, but that's all right though. Corgo here, he can't wait to jump on in. He's like,
No, I go good, buddy. Finish what you're gonna say, man.
But I think this works as a kid's movie. I know you didn't like it as a kid, but I still loved it as a kid. Watching my son watch it with me the other day resonated with me that this really is for, obviously not so much for adults, but for kids. And again, even like the fight scene with him going after being shot down with the missiles and what have you. And I know I'm probably jumping around with all this.
That's fine.
But I'm just going to do the highlights because I think you two do a good job of just recapping the story in itself. So just for me, the highlights on this would be
skiing down the building.
Oh, that was dope. And that chick too. What was the chick? The one that was
Lorelai Ambrosia.
Yes.
Played by Pamela Stevens.
So hot. There's an ass factor to that cannot be denied, and a dolly parting factor. Okay. Was that wrong to say you talk about boobs? I'm sorry.
No, that's not the first time we saw it in Superman. Don't sleep on Miss Teschmacher.
Miss Teschmacher was hot.
She jumped in the pool and got Superman.
Yeah, she did.
Don't sleep on Valley.
But to me, I appreciated the humor of it. And I'm losing my train of thought here. Damn it. Let me cut to Corey.
Because it's a bad movie. You have nothing to stand on, brother.
Take your time, man.
I got. Here's the thing.
Because you have nothing to stand on. The movie's dog shit.
Well, your whole argument is that Richard Pryor ruined it, and I actually thought the humor was great in it. Here's the thing: we didn't have Richard Vaughn was a great villain as well, and I'm probably jumping around, but it is what it is. I think it was great. Gene Hackman was already done, and who was going to fill in Gene Hackman's role? I think Robert Vaughn was a great casting choice. The way he played that character was so much charisma. He was, and again, but yet you still hate the movie.
Yeah, because it's a bad movie, bro.
Well, he had a lot of scenes with Richard Pryor.
Yeah, and those were all pointless.
What was dope too? Dude, when he started fucking around with the satellite for the weather and he started messing with the coca beans. Oh, that was dope.
No, it wasn't, but go ahead.
But no, there was just a lot of things. I thought there's a lot of little mini adventures in there that I thought was true to the character of Superman saving the day. And again, too, you can talk about the oil rig spill.
I'm good with all everything Superman related in that movie. Everything Christopher Reeves related. Anything.
So your whole point of dissension.
My whole disdain for Superman 3 is the whole Richard Pryor and the whole plot, and I just wish it was done better. They were just lazy. They didn't want to bring in Bizarro. They didn't want to bring in Brainiac. Well, you can afford Richard Pryor, then don't bring in Richard Pryor. Don't bring him in.
Richard Pryor was only $5 million.
I remember seeing the trailer thinking like, oh, you know what I mean? Like after seeing the toy and I'm thinking like Richard Pryor in it. And even my parents were like, that just seems kind of weird. And I mean, it just was a bad idea.
I think that movie made sense in 83. You couldn't make it before or after 83, but it made perfect fucking sense.
Corey, go ahead.
Gun buddy?
No. All you, brother. All you.
All right. There's a lot to unpack here with Superman 3. This is when the series started to go down the tubes, big time. 1983 was a really interesting year because I remember as a kid that year, what I thought was really exciting before I actually saw the final product was this was the year that Luke Skywalker was going to square off against Superman because they both Jedi was coming out summer of 83. Jedi I think was in May, and then I think Superman was either June or July.
Yep.
Of 83.
Yep.
Of course, Jedi's a better movie, at least in compared to Superman 3.
Oh yeah. I have better film on my teeth than that movie.
That's something to brag about.
In the grand scheme, it's a bad movie. And you'll see why I put this movie out when we rank our Superman films when this is all said and done. But this is a bad movie because I think it wasn't done out of creative spark. I think it was done kind of in a way out of ignorance.
Bingo.
It might have been.
You gotta understand too. This is interesting because 83. This was a year to me, like, this was an interesting year for Pryor because Pryor was really at the peak of his powers, but this was also the year where I think this is about as high as he was going to go, and I don't mean any disrespect to the legend that he is, right. But this was also the time when the title of our funniest comedian was transitioning to a new and up-and-coming kid called Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy, yep.
And I think, Superman 3 was pretty much peak Pryor. I think the toy may have come out of either a year before.
Yeah, it was 82.
Was it toy 82? Okay, which ironically enough was directed by Dick Donner. But yeah, bringing Pryor in made no sense. Even as a kid, I was wondering like, Richard Pryor's in a Superman movie, and eventually they would tell the reason why was because a couple things are going on here. It was on, I think it was Johnny Carson, where he had told Carson that he was a big fan of Superman movies, and also too he was dating Margot Kidder. As well. Really? Yeah, he was dating Margot Kidder.
They probably did lots of coke together.
And of course, this also speaking of which, this is also the movie where her screen time got cut down a lot. And according to her, she felt it was because she had expressed her her anger towards letting Donner go, and she felt like she'd being punished by the Salkinds. So they cut Lois back and brought in Lana Lang as a potential love interest for Superman. So yeah, there was, but the whole supercomputer was really like. Even as a kid, I mean, like a computer, like just pull the plug, Superman.
Yeah. Well, he has to get to the computer to pull the plug.
And Brainiac.
Gray hairs.
And Brainiac, it should have been Brainiac.
Yes.
And budget had nothing to do with it. I just think the Salkinds, they thought it was kind of cool to bring Richard Pryor in, and it was just like, And it's interesting because this isn't this ideal. It was kind of like, it's funny how some of the things that the Superman films did in the 80s would be repeated in the Batman films in the 90s. Yeah. Because we get to the third Superman film and now they're bringing in a comedian as a draw for the audience.
Right.
We get to Batman Forever and
Jim Carrey.
And also, too, you look at the first Batman movie, it's front-loaded with heavy actors. Jack Nicholson, they got a seasoned actor to sell that movie. Right. Jack Palance, as Boss Grissom. Yep. Superman, you had Marlon Brando's Jor-El. Yep. And you had Hackman and Glenn Ford. These guys all seasoned actors. Yep.
Marquee guys.
Yeah. You bring in in Batman Returns. I mean, Batman Forever, you got a redhead love interest in Dr. Chase Meridian. Mm-hmm. Superman 3, we got more Lana Lang. And another tool of Lana Lang. So yeah, this film, it's a bad film. And like I said, the story is goofy. The supercomputer just is really goofy. It should have just been red kryptonite,
Yep.
which would have been straight from the comic books instead of the synthetic kryptonite that Gus Gorman made. You see this guy in the unemployment line, and they're playing him for laughs.
Yeah.
And this is where it really got really silly. And you can't always fall back on as a child. Like I get it. Look, I love Buck Rogers in the 25th century. When I watched the TV series, I feel like a little kid again. But I also like Buck Rogers ain't great science fiction. It's goofy. And the same with this movie. But the junkyard fight was fun and cool. But that's probably the only really good thing in this movie, man. I mean, everything else is just, you get a proxy Lex Luthor. You get Robert Vaughn, and it's interesting because in a few years we will be looking at industrial billionaire men as villains. In many ways, Luthor. It kind of foreshadowed the Luthor that John Byrne would do, and that's kind of what turned me around to Superman. Made me a bigger Superman fan with the John Byrne run.
Yeah.
Man, it's still, of course, Luthor is a billionaire, but he's also a scientific genius. Right. But a lot of these characters were just offshoots of what we already had before. We had Robert Vaughn as a Luthor-esque villain. Yep. We had Pamela Stevens as Lorelei Ambrosio, which was the Miss Teschmacher-esque. Yep. I mean, probably the only different person was his sister Vera. I forgot the actor's name.
Yeah, she was serious, and Otis was a goof.
But here's the interesting thing about Lorelei Ambrosio was, and Miss Teschmacher wasn't a dumb person, but she was just kind of like your average, everyday kind of girl, just very attractive. Lorelei Ambrosio is actually really intelligent. If you watch the movie again, you'll see she's reading books on like transcendental, whatever it was, identity. And then when the computer wasn't acting up, she immediately knew what the problem was with the computer, and she started running. So they put little stuff in there like that. But and then like when he's evil, he's not really evil. I mean, come on, pushing the Leaning Tower of Pisa straight. Yeah, come on, ramming an oil tanker. No, yeah. I mean, so. It's like it's not a good movie at all.
It's the equivalent of him doing the dance. That's all that it is. Him drinking and throwing throwing peanuts at the glass.
Which is dope.
Is the equivalent of Peter Parker doing the dance.
And they still had, the special effects were good for the most part, because it was made with a healthy budget. And like the next movie we'll get to, but that's another story we'll get to very shortly. But I'm more in line with him. It's not a good movie. It really isn't. And the thing was, and Roger Ebert brought this up too. It was really a waste of Pryor's talent because Richard Pryor's a really damn good actor. He's done some serious like Lady Sings the Blues with Diana Ross, Grease Lightning with Beau Bridges, JoJo Dancer. JoJo Dancer.
I love him in that one.
Pryor can act. Pryor can act. I mean, he's not just comedy.
Well, that's what he thought it was going to be. Like he originally signed on thinking it would be much more serious, from what I read, and then he wasn't happy with the end result.
I mean. Yeah, I mean, I guess, I guess once you're locked in a contract, I'd have to look more into that. But once again, it's a goofy movie, man. And this is where the series really went downhill. And it brings me to a bigger point. It's funny when people talk about their favorite Superman, they once again, like I said, the Christopher Reeve fans and me make me scratch my head more than the Snyder fans. I feel like the Snyder fans get picked on a little bit too much, right? Because they bring up Christopher Reeve like he doesn't have any stink in his closet. And let me take that back because I'm not trying to disrespect, because what he did was legendary,
right?
But like in the grand scheme of things, he really only had 2 good movies. The rest of the movies were bad.
Oh yeah,
dog
shit.
Like
not even bad, absolute.
Dog
shit.
As far as like a modern day Superman series of films or trilogy, I would say, Brave New World withstanding, I don't count that movie, but Chris Evans' Captain America trilogy runs circles to me in the main ways. They're just solid movies.
But as far as Superman, I think Cavill has stronger portfolio than Christopher Reeves.
And it's like I said, Superman, 3 is just not good. Yeah. So that's where I stand on it.
So as far as 4 is concerned, I only saw it once in 1988 when it finally came on VHS, because that came out summer of '87, right? Yeah. So I remember watching it, and first I wasn't mad at it because it was fine. Again, anything with Christopher Reeves and anything with him as Superman works. And then but where I immediately checked out, and is when Lex Luthor returns, of course, with the afro, looking like an old Will Ferrell, and then he goes to the nuclear place and he sets the bomb. The nuclear missile goes into the sun, and Nuclear Man is born. Not as he starts off as a baby, and then he's just fully formed with the cape and the mullet and the fingernails in a matter of seconds, and he's just this smart.
Which made it so dope.
No, it did not. It's just one of the worst things I've ever seen.
And
it was just
Sentry before Sentry was even invented.
it was a TV. It felt like it was a Superman movie made for the TV, and it felt like it should have been on like Channel 7. But now, as far as the Christopher Reeve stuff always works. But like I like when he has to humble himself in the gym and he throws the thing. Go ahead.
Well, as far as Nuclear Man's clothes, Luthor did put clothes on Nuclear Man when he was using the protoplasm. He put the fabric in. It was designed to grow upon activation.
Okay. Okay, so I didn't even remember that.
Yeah, it's been a minute since you saw the movie.
So I tried watching it this morning, and I got to the part where he shows up.
Wait, did you only get the opening credits and that was it?
No, I got to the part where he's talking with Gene Hackman's voice, and then I had to leave. So I mean, I
understand.
It's just so bad that I never want to watch it again. You know what I mean?
The problem was with that movie, half the budget was gutted, unfortunately, from the get-go. Mm-hmm. I think they were promised like 34 or 30 million. The actual budget became 17 million. There were some budget issues going on with Canon. I believe Master Universe had an issue where they lost money, so they had to allocate money for that and use it somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So the budget
they came out the same summer, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but go ahead. Yeah.
And it's just basically the budget issues is what killed it. I think the director was solid in it. I mean, he's no Richard Donner, but I think
who is
Sidney J. Fury? That's the name of the director.
He was solid. It just I think the special effects is what really dragged it down. I mean, the story was fine for what it is.
And then the love triangle with Christopher Reeve. I mean, with Clark Kent, Superman, and then Lois, and then what's her name from Star 80?
Meryl.
It's Meryl Hemingway.
Yeah, she's beautiful. I mean,
I'm okay with that because again, he had.
That's just ridiculous, though. Him it was like a sitcom where you go out the back door and then you come on this side.
But
that's just stupid.
It's
low-brow, dumb shit.
It's in line with 2 and 3, though. So if you're gonna critique,
3
and 2, you forget on the Richard cut of 2, it had a lot of that humor that you didn't like.
Yeah, again, that's why it wasn't the cut that I liked in the theater.
4 was in line with that.
Yeah,
and it just I like it, but again, I like it.
But now you like it. But I remember when we first met, you hated it, and
I gave it a lot of forgiveness because the special effects are just horrible. I think the only thing redeeming really about it, I do like the interplay with him trying to do the double date with Lois Lane and I forgot
Lacey Warfield.
That was cool to see. Again, it's more comedic than anything. And I do like the fight scenes with Nuclear Man, but yeah, the budget's really.
Who would you have brought in instead of Nuclear Man?
Well, it's Canon Films. I mean, you got to understand.
But I'm just curious, if you had to bring somebody in instead of Nuclear Man, who would you have?
I'll get to that, but I'll just let him finish.
Okay. I can. You got to understand, like, I like Nuclear Man for what it is. I mean, it's not I don't think is he even a comic character, or is that just something?
No, that was.
Well, technically, in DC, Firestorm, the Nuclear Man, but that's Firestorm. Yeah. That's a whole different character.
Yeah, it is. You're absolutely right. That'd probably be the closest. But I do like the fact they gave him someone on equal terms he could fight. I did like the fight scenes.
I didn't.
You only got past what
87. When I watched it in 87, I thought it was dog shit. If I'm 11 and I don't like it, you know what I mean? You think at 39, I'm gonna say, you know what? That was a good fight scene. What was I thinking in 1987?
You may.
All right.
Give it a shot.
Okay. I'm going to finish it when I get home.
Yeah, when you get home, give it a shot. But, I mean, I agree with you on most of it. Like I said, to me, the fight scenes are probably like the highlight of it. And again, Christopher Reeves, any scene that he's in is the highlight of it. Problem with this movie was the budget. I think the budget is what killed it. I think any promise this movie had died when the budget was gutted. I think all they had was enough money to pay for the actors and for the film at this point. Even the opening scroll was bad. I think the Blu-ray did a lot and the 4K did a lot to clean up the rough edges. But when I first saw this in 88, I think it was on HBO. Like the flight scenes looked horrible. Yep. You mentioned the doll special effects from 1 and 2. This was just even more obvious.
No, actually, the effects in 1 are good. I had a problem with some of the effects in Superman 2. But it's still better than what we got in 4. Yeah.
Like, see, I didn't notice the doll aspect of it until like I saw the Blu-ray because obviously you see the clarity of what was shot. This is apparent they had toys for using them for like the wide shots of them flying, and it was just it's just, this movie. I mean, if you're gonna like it, look at it as a canon film. I think this movie would have been a lot better if it wasn't Superman in it. If it was just a generic superhero
or never existed, that would have been better. It would have been amazing if it never existed.
Well,
right?
It would have been a dope ass canon film. Canon films are dope because they're just kind of have that off the wall aspect to them,
right?
And if it wasn't Superman in this movie, I promise you, it would probably been better received as just a canon movie, but because it's part of the lineage that was started by Donner, it doesn't hold weight, sadly. What about you, Corey?
Cool. Yeah, go.
This it's a bad movie. It's a very bad movie. And once again, there was a lot of things going on. This film was this was a film that Canon was going to use to basically buy their way into the big time with the bigger studios like 20th Century Fox, like Warner Brothers.
Right.
They had bought the Superman rights. They had purchased it from the Salkinds, and so they were producing it. And like Vito said, there was mix up with Master of the Universe. Basically, they should have bankrolled this film more than Master of the Universe because they were too little too late on He-Man. He-Man was starting to kind of fade out in popularity. There was a new kid on the block named Optimus Prime and the G.I. Joes and Cobras. Right. And so Canon put more money into Master of the Universe. I think Superman 4, God, I think it had a $14 million budget or...
No, I think it was 34.
No, it wasn't that much. It would have been a much... That's big for back then. Hold on, let me. I
think the final budget was $17 million after it.
Let me ask you, Corey, real quick. While you look that up, did you watch it in the theater?
Yeah, I saw it in the theater. Okay. I've seen every Superman movie.
Yeah, I did not see this one in the theater. I saw the trailer. I knew off the trailer. I'm like, this character doesn't exist.
17 million.
17 million. Okay, yeah.
I knew this was going to be dog shit.
I think Master of the Universe was 19 or like. Maybe in 20 million. They spent a little bit more on Master of the Universe.
I like Master of the Universe better, but go ahead.
And I think Gary Goddard, the director, put in a little bit of money into it too to finish the final scene.
Yep.
But both movies came out, and both movies are really box office flops.
Yeah.
But with this movie, to me, at the heart, I cut this movie a little bit more slack than Superman 3 because they went in with their hearts in the right place. They really did. They Reeve wasn't happy with Superman 3.
Right.
This is the first Superman movie where he finally got top billing. Because I guess he wasn't going to come back at first, but no, this was a story that he had contributed about Superman bringing an end to the nuclear arms race. It wasn't executed very well, but at the heart, I think we had a very interesting story there versus Superman 3. Whereas I like the idea that this was a Superman, a very human Superman that went against his code, his golden rules, like they established.
Not getting politics. Yes.
Well, not so much that, but remember they said they established
interfering with man's destiny.
They established in the first movie. It is forbidden for you to interfere in human history. You can guide them and be an example, but they have to forge their own destiny. And what we're doing in Superman 4 is a Superman now is basically like a parent, almost like I've stood by. Years, and clearly you're not getting any better at this. You keep making weapons that are ultimately going to lead to everybody's destruction. So now, as a parent, I'm going to take your toys away from you.
Yeah.
So like I said, it was a very interesting idea, and by him taking everybody's weapons, it kind of. It's almost like he's taking his first steps to maybe become like a dictator, almost, or like a soft dictator. Because they always say what the road to hell is paved by the best intentions or something like that. Right. So you see him, he's taking the Soviets missiles away, United States missiles away, China's. He's doing all this. He's like and this is of course based on a letter written to him by a little kid,
right?
And he's like, this kid has a point. Like we're on a one-way road to destruction. So I'm taking all your weapons away. Yeah. I'm basically taking away your sovereign right to defend yourself. Yeah. And I think with a tighter script, that could have been a really interesting story. And once again, I know I'm making this up in my own head. Everyone has the movie,
the mind canon
they want in their head. But I thought it'd been really cool had this story been tweaked a little bit more. That he's stripping the whole world of their weapons and throwing them in outer space, and now the world is against Superman, and the world's leaders kind of meet in secret, and they turn to the one man like Michael Caine said in Dark Knight, you beat them all. They turned to a man they didn't understand.
Right.
World leaders turned to a man they didn't quite understand, Lex Luthor.
Right.
And it's like, look, he's out of control. What can we do to stop this guy? Now, Luthor is going to his own little side. He's going to do away to pocket power himself. And this is where you come in with Nuclear Man, or to answer your question earlier, it really should have been Bizarro.
Yeah.
And, because at this point, 87, Man of Steel had already came out, and Bizarro is now a genetic clone of Superman, and it could have worked perfectly well within that movie. And I think you could see the world governments, China, America, Japan, Soviet Union all giving Luthor money to do this illegal, ungodly genetic research, and he comes up with this, imperfect clone of Superman, which, at first, they think, they got him under control, but this thing only follows Luthor, and then maybe it even gets to the point where he doesn't even listen to Luthor, and Superman's got to step in, and I like I said, it would take a better writing from someone who actually knows how to write professionally. I'm just spitballing here, but at the end of the day, Superman realizes that, you know what, I can't take you by the hand, and you're going to have to do this on your own, and I think if it went in that direction, I think it would have been a much better movie. Yeah. But once again, you had a lot of goofiness. 70% of it came from Lenny Luthor, played by
Ducky.
John Cryer.
Ducky.
Ducky.
It's fucking ridiculous, dude.
Lenny was dope.
And then things that didn't make any sense in the movie, like you get a strand of Superman's hair, and it's holding up this 1,000-pound weight, but he can cut it with some bolt cutters and stuff. Things like that. We get the stuff like he was doing. Like, once again, and this was another issue with Christopher Reeve movies. They were just making up powers as they kept going along.
That's my biggest thing.
Going back to Superman 2 with the
set structure,
the finger lasers for the super Kryptonians, the super memory erase Chris. Then he does it again in this one. And there's a scene where he's flying with Margot Kidder, and he lets her go, and now she can fly. He can give her the ability to fly.
Yeah. I thought she was just gliding.
No.
Yeah, but in the 80s, there was no consistency between movies though. Too. That's the thing. In the 80s, you can look at the horror movies too. They always rearranged the rules for when they were
whoever the director.
Not true, but she's literally flying with him.
Yeah.
And it didn't look good. The effects didn't look really good. That flying scene looked so
cheesy.
Well, that's because the budget wasn't there.
Yeah. The budget was
you
down.
could tell, like you said, like all they had was a blue man and a film, and they just threw her. It looked like something like you could do on TV or on video.
I thought she was just falling with grace, a la Buzz Lightyear.
So it's not a good movie, and I understand why people don't like it, why they put it at the bottom of the list. Like I said, I cut a little bit of slack. I think at heart there was a good movie there, and I think their hearts were in the right place. Chris Reeve went in and wanted to bring the film back to the glory days of the first movie.
Absolutely.
The time it came out too, I'm not saying that a more lighthearted superhero doesn't work, but you got to understand by the time
87
we got to 87, there was like a 4-year gap between Superman 3 and 4, and in that time, the heroes that we were starting to embrace now were different. We were starting to embrace guys like Rambo, and that summer,
Commando.
That summer there was another hero that came out that basically was the technical definition of
RoboCop.
I was going to
sorry.
An adult comic book movie that played a lot better, and it was RoboCop.
Yeah.
A far better movie, bloodier and violent, but you people really engaged with that character, but you also had Schwarzenegger and Predator fighting against his alien invader. So when you're going up against those two big juggernauts of the summer of '87, and you come with a half-ass Superman movie,
it just wasn't going to work.
Had that movie came out in '85, you think it would have been better?
With the same budget, no.
Okay.
No.
What about the same plot even with Nuclear Man?
Same
85.
Plot, I think it.
No.
I think. No. See, that's where I think it probably would have been better. I think Corey brought up a good point. Times are changing. We wanted something harder and heavier. RoboCop and Predator were like the two of the biggest films of '87.
Because '85, I think it could have fit.
That's what I'm saying. I think you were right.
I had Rambo.
Oh, that's true.
First Blood Part 2. You still could have done it. I'm not saying you still couldn't have done a more lighter hero, but the way they were coming about it was just they didn't have all the ducks lined up in a row, and you got what you got.
Go ahead.
So and it was the film. Like I say, Canon was trying to use this to like up their game to compete with the bigger studios. Kind of like with New Line when they finally did Lord of the Rings, and that kind of put them up on a level.
Yeah.
But like I said, prior to that, Canon was known for the low budget Chuck Norris movies and stuff like. And there's nothing wrong with that. That was their game.
That was their lane. But they were really successful at that. And what they did, they made that bid, and Superman was like their ticket to really be respected, and they fumbled it.
And Golden Globus, I think they were doing too much too soon. So,
they were. They had too many projects in the can, and they were selling projects. Not to get off on a tangent, they were selling projects to investors before they even made, and that's what they built their business on. And they were spread too thin. Unfortunately, the movies weren't bringing them enough money to recoup it to bankroll the next one. And what Corey said, Masters of the Universe really hurt Superman 4.
So I just feel that and me and my son were just talking about it because we just watched the most recent Superman. But just to me, villains are just super important, and I think that especially in the '80s, I'm maybe just ignorant to it, but I feel like when it came to Superman, they were like, everyone's here to see Superman. Let's just give them these mediocre villains, and I feel that's what they did, especially in 3 and 4.